Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.
Welcome to the podcast. This is your host, Seth Greene. Today, I've got the good fortune to be interviewing attorney Gabe Kotch. Gabe, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Seth. Thank you for having me on.
Our pleasure. A couple of housekeeping items. Special shout out to financial advisor Robert Lehman, who connected us. And full disclosure, we are not giving any legal advice on today's podcast. Gabe is in the state of Florida. If you are not in the state of Florida, please seek counsel licensed where you are. Gabe, tell us what inspired you to go to law school back in the first place?
So back in the first place, I got a degree in political science, minored in Spanish, kind of with the idea all the way through college that I wanted to go to law school. So, I really enjoyed reading and writing and the logic, behind reasoning, and figured that or math. I wasn't very good at math, so law school was kind of the end.
And then how did you arrive? Tell us a little bit about the type of law that you're practicing now.
So right now I'm actually an in-house attorney. I practice mostly technology agreements, so negotiating, and on behalf of company agreements with, big software providers, you name it. Some of the ones I won't name, but some of the bigger ones we probably use on a daily basis, and then other types of deals as well, and then a lot of data privacy work, both here in the U.S. And then also some international. I work here in the U.S., but also working on some international deals as well. Okay,
so you are a general counsel in-house. Obviously, your client remains confidential. We won't talk about them, but we will talk about the type of work that you're doing. Is this what you've always done, or did you do other types of law first?
So I graduated quite some time ago. I won't name the year.
Fair enough.
A long time ago. Anyways, I started in litigation. So I think everybody out of law school figured they wanted to be Perry Mason. And so went and started doing litigation to quickly figure out I wasn't Perry Mason. So I ended up going into more of the transactional world. And then about 8 years ago, kind of just by happenstance, I started working on a project that a client needed, had some privacy and technology aspects to it, really, fell in love with the practice, and I've just continued to grow that practice, whether I've done in-house and I've also done some private practice, but it's something I didn't think I'd ever do. I do not have a technology background or privacy background, but I feel lucky that I can do it.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. So talk about that learning curve, because if you you said, I don't have a technology or privacy background, yet you're doing a lot of that work. Obviously, you had to learn that along the way. Talk a little bit about that journey.
So, it's quite a difference between litigation, where, you have a lot of rules that are set out and rules of evidence and rules from the judge and rules from civil procedure. It is very structured. Turning to what I do from a technology standpoint, and then just from a transactional standpoint, there's really no rules around it. So it was just, a pretty high learning curve to figure out how to negotiate an agreement, what customers and clients were looking for, the important part, not important parts, and really thank goodness I had a good mentor. And so I really, he gave me enough rope to hang myself, so to speak. But, before I'd hang myself, he was very open door. And I would say, hey, mentor, this clause came up. I don't know what this is. Do we like it or do we not like it? And he, I'd reason through it, and then he helped me learn to think, on those complex issues by myself. From a privacy perspective, we had a UK attorney who I worked with, who was a very successful privacy attorney. And again, as I said, I just happened to fall into a project. I had to do some work, and she really taught me the ropes. And at the end of the day, no matter what you do as a lawyer, most of it comes down to logical reasoning. And there's not always a right or wrong answer. It's really what answer is more right, or why is it right, or why is it wrong. And so, regardless of your practice, that ultimately really boils down to, what's your logical argument, and the reasoning behind it. And if that makes sense, that's kind of what the instinct you go with.
That makes a lot of sense. Why do you think more businesses don't have in-house counsel? So, I think businesses, and I'm a very small business, just isn't sophisticated enough or can't afford it, but some, kind of medium-sized businesses, I think don't have in-house counsel because a lot of them don't understand or don't see the need until they start working with law firms or more sophisticated projects, to then realize they're spending, lots of money on hourly fees. And you can get a, attorney who probably was one of those that was billing you the hourly fees. In fact, that's how I ended up where I am now, to come in, and A, it's more expensive, so your CFO is going to love it. And B, they then become dedicated to you, and they then help you really notice how many legal issues there are that go in running a business. And so, I think, like, as I said, companies just don't really know that they don't know what they don't know. So I don't think they know they need it. And then when they do, they can't really figure out how they ever got along without one. Well, that's certainly the goal, right? Is you want them to wonder how they ever lived without you. That means you're doing your job very well. So let's assume our listeners are business owners who don't have an in-house counsel. What are some of the mistakes you think business owners are making when it comes to, the law and legal liability and their protection and stuff like that?
Sure. So I think, and I've seen it firsthand, when you don't have in-house counsel and you start getting into, more sophisticated transactions, the larger your business goes, the more risk you have, depending on what kind of business you run. Contractual risk of slip and falls, depends on what you sell and what you do, but there's always risk. And so, I think, so sorry, hold on. Repeat the question, because I got off track there.
That's okay. That's allowed. So mistakes business owners are making.
Right. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I like to talk. But so mistakes they're really making, a lot of times they'll try to negotiate their own agreements. And, then I've come in afterwards and seen them and realized they've accepted, all sorts of clauses that they shouldn't accept, some that aren't so bad and some that are pretty serious. Not only that, even from an insurance standpoint, getting what coverage they think they need because it's cheap, not realizing that, if you don't have coverage for something doesn't mean you're not going to suffer the damages. Insurance is really to cover you in case those issues come up. So, a lot of the risk analysis that's done when you have lawyers, and that lawyers do when you're a business person, you really just want to get the deal closed by the end of the quarter so you can book it. And what we do as lawyers, our brains work differently. So of course we want to help them close the deal, but we are looking at it from a risk, for the most part, a risk perspective, and what's the benefit to the company, what's the liability to the company. And then when you're a businessman or a businesswoman, inherent in what you learn in school is get the deal done and do as much business as you can.
Absolutely. With all this, you were in litigation, then private practice, now you're in-house counsel. What's your biggest challenge now?
My biggest challenge now is, working, and I think any in-house lawyer will recognize it, is working with your company and your executives and your CFO, and really trying to show them the value of having in-house counsel. Not necessarily the value from a risk or analysis perspective, but from a need perspective. Again, if it's the business folks, depending on who they are, tend to look at the bottom line and realize that they're paying in-house counsel they probably don't need to be, or they don't think they need to be, and tend to look at us as obstructionists, even though we're really just trying to help the deal close. So that, I think, having, you're not a profit center, so you're really just a line item in someone's budget. So it's really trying to prove to business people who really want to get the deal done, who are really looking at the bottom line, the value of in-house counsel. Thank goodness the folks I work with see that, but that is, even then there's still the days, that I don't think they do. But I think most in-house counsel, especially as you get more senior in your roles, tend to run into that on a somewhat regular basis. But that's part of the risk and part of the understanding when you go in-house is that's what's going to happen.
Your passion is obvious. What do you like best about what you're doing?
So I really like, from a technology standpoint, I really like just digging into the details and really figuring out, the details of each, piece of software or hardware, and then, kind of the thrill of the negotiation, as dorky as that sounds, kind of the back and forth, trying to get the best deal for your client, whether it's your, employer in-house or a third-party client if you're in private practice. So that's probably it.
Now, you talked a little bit about technology, working on the technology side, working on the privacy side. I'm sure there are more parts to your role than that. How do you, and they're all different areas, right? Some overlap, but they're all, how do you stay on top of the trends and what's going on in all of those different overlapping fields?
So, as senior in-house counsel, you tend to become somewhat more of a generalist. So I still, my expertise is still the privacy technology part. But there's risk analysis and what insurance is, right? And then if you don't have a risk department, you now are the, basically the risk department. And so trying to figure all that, all that out. And for example, if we had a patent lawsuit, you got to go get outside counsel. So a lot of times for the really detailed stuff, especially a smaller legal group, you in large part depend on, especially for kind of, either bet the company type of stuff or more specific, really specific practice area stuff. You usually depend on outside counsel, which gets expensive, but that's another part of being in-house counsel is you got to manage the spend.
Absolutely. For our folks watching and listening who might want to learn more, where's the best place for them to go to learn more about you? Is that LinkedIn? Is that a website?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, I have a profile there. It's probably the best place. Being a privacy attorney, I don't have a large presence online. I think I have a Twitter account, which I think I get pinged on my email once in a while. I probably have never looked at it. I don't use Facebook because all of the issues that Facebook has had. So, I'm there. My contact information is there if anybody wants to contact me. And, if anybody listening is a young lawyer and kind of wants to figure out, how to, kind of follow in my footsteps or what I think about going in-house, whatever it may be, I'm happy to speak with them. As I said, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think my actual contact information is in there as well, but they can always send me a message.
Awesome. Well, we greatly appreciate that. Since you do handle a lot of technology and privacy work, and you just talked about Facebook, you kind of opened the door just a little bit. How do you feel about all of the stuff that's been going on in, let's say, the online social media world in terms of where we're headed?
So, from a pure privacy perspective, the Googles of the world, the Facebooks of the world, I don't think anything's intentional. It's just you get so big and these technology companies, social media companies in large part depend on personal information, for ad revenue, for example, for directed ad revenue. If I'm on Facebook and I'm talking about, race cars and those are a bunch of my pictures and all my friends are, race car advocates or race car enthusiasts, I'm going to get an ad on Facebook for something about race cars. And that's because they've been able to see my information. So, I don't think they shouldn't. It's just, as you grow these companies, I think they need to be a bit smarter, but a bit tighter in their overview. I think Facebook and them are doing a good job now, but it's kind of, after the fact. And then
Yes.
I think so. They're going back and doing what they should have done, to build it in. In fact, in privacy, you call it privacy by design. You kind of build it in as you're building the product. So, from a privacy perspective, I think they're getting better. It's just, some of the jurisdictions in the world, like the EU, are really strict on use of privacy or private information. Kind of from a more social aspect, I think, it's going to be an interesting world, with Elon Musk buying Twitter, so I think that's going to probably throw a gigantic wrench into the social media world. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think he's going to change the use of that platform to some extent, which I think is going to have a kind of trickle down effect on all the other social media, platforms that we use.
All right. Well, we know your time's incredibly valuable. We greatly appreciate you spending some of it with us. This has been Seth Greene here with Gabe Kotch. Gabe, thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. Thank you. Talk to you soon, Seth.
Yep. Special thank you to Bob Lehman for connecting us. Thank you all for watching and listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.